He was practically family, my best friend Chloe's son, Liam. The boy I watched grow from scuffed knees to awkward teens. So when 24-year-old Liam messaged asking for a quick favor, help with a resume, I said yes instantly. How could I not? It felt natural. What I wasn't prepared for, walking into my quiet Portland living room that drizzly autumn afternoon, was the jolt. The boy was gone. In his place stood a man carrying a quiet confidence that felt different. Dangerously different. Have you ever looked at someone familiar and suddenly seen them in a completely new, unsettling light? It throws everything off balance. Make sure you subscribe and hit that bell because this simple favor quickly spiraled into territory I never thought I'd enter. What was the biggest surprise shift you've seen in someone you thought you knew? Tell me below. He had Chloe's easy smile, but his eyes, they held a new depth. Watchful, perceptive, and intensely curious as they met mine. He sat down, pulling out his laptop, asking for guidance. I slipped into the familiar mentor role, offering advice, encouragement. But my focus kept drifting. The subtle, masculine scent of his cologne, so unlike the teenage sprays I remembered. The way he sat closer than strictly necessary on the couch, an easy proximity that suddenly felt charged. The way he listened, not just politely, but with a focused respect that made me feel, well, noticed. Truly noticed. Was I imagining this intensity, or was it real? The conversation naturally shifted. Work, life, then inevitably he asked gently about my relationship with Mark. I gave the practiced, vague answer. Oh, we're fine. Busy. You know. The standard deflection for a marriage that had settled into a comfortable, perhaps too comfortable, quiet. He nodded, but his gaze softened with an understanding that felt startlingly intimate. As if he could see the unspoken truths behind the word fine, the separate silences, the routine affection, the space growing between Mark and me. He didn't pry, but his eyes held mine just a beat too long. Long enough for something unspoken to pass between us. And crucially, I didn't look away. That loaded silence, that shared glance that says more than words ever could. It's potent, isn't it? Like this video if you felt that unspoken electricity. That night, alone, the memory of his presence lingered. The easy laughter, the intense focus when I spoke, the way he looked at me. It wasn't overt, nothing anyone else would notice. But it felt deliberate. Or was I just projecting my own dissatisfaction? I scolded myself. It was nothing. He was Chloe's son. But I still reread our simple text exchange. I still felt that dangerous flicker, that warmth deep in my chest I hadn't felt in years. It was the startling, unnerving feeling of being seen. Not as a wife, a friend, a capable woman juggling responsibilities, but as me. And Liam somehow saw me. Or did he just see an opportunity? The question hung, unanswered. Life went on. Chores, work, polite smiles. Playing the role. But underneath, a low hum of awareness persisted. Nothing had happened. Yet everything felt altered. Why did I feel so guilty over a look, a feeling, a possibility? The unease coiled inside me. A week later, he reached out. Not about jobs. Hey Sarah, any chance you have time to talk? Feeling overwhelmed. My fingers flew across the screen. Sure, come by, before caution could intervene. Why the automatic yes? Why the disregard for the warning bells already ringing? When he arrived, the vulnerability I'd sensed before was now palpable. He slumped onto the couch, his usual composure gone, and talked, feeling lost, stuck, the pressure mounting. I listened, offering the kind of steady reassurance I'd always given him. Told him it was okay, normal. He looked at me with raw gratitude, like my words were an anchor in his storm. You always know what to say, Sarah, he murmured, and the sincerity in his voice resonated somewhere deep inside me. That invisible thread between us pulled tighter. Was this just gratitude or something more complex taking root? Later, reaching for glasses on the table, our hands brushed. Accidental, brief, but it ignited something. Every nerve ending registered the contact. I pulled back sharply, too sharply. He noticed. His eyes flickered, acknowledging the spark, the charge that now filled the space between us. We both felt it. We both pretended not to. When he left, his lingering look was unreadable. Longing? Guilt? A question? Couldn't tell. But it stayed with me, fueling the restless thoughts. What did that look mean? What did he really want? That night, sleep was a distant shore. Why this reaction? Why him? He was Chloe's son. The simple, brutal truth surfaced. I was starving. Starving for connection, for intensity, for proof I wasn't invisible. He saw me, and God help me, It felt intoxicatingly good. It's a dangerous cocktail, isn't it? Loneliness mixed with unexpected attention? Have you ever found yourself questioning your own motives in a similar situation? The self-doubt escalated. Every text felt like navigating a minefield. Was I reading too much into his friendly messages? Was I subtly encouraging something I shouldn't? Or was I just so desperately lonely I was manufacturing a connection? The lines blurred. All I knew was that a current had started pulling me relentlessly towards a dangerous shore, and the scariest part? I wasn't entirely sure I wanted to swim against it. It wasn't planned. I clung to that. No conscious decision. Liam came over one afternoon. Mark was working late, ostensibly to drop off a book. Casual. Except it wasn't. The second he stepped inside, the air crackled. He looked at me, really looked, like the silence since our last charged meeting had only amplified the unspoken. I felt it too. A painful, thrilling awareness. We made awkward small talk, standing too close in the hallway. I could feel his gaze on me even when I looked away. He complimented my scarf. I deflected with a shaky joke. Then, a pause. A heavy, unbearable stillness. I met his eyes. He didn't look away. And then he leaned in. No, stop, this is wrong. My mind screamed. But I didn't move. And his lips were on mine. It wasn't gentle. It was messy, reckless, a desperate collision. Years of unspoken tension, weeks of simmering awareness, combusting all at once. I pulled back, gasping, reality crashing in. But he looked just as stunned, his eyes dark and wide. No apology. Just a raw whisper that shattered my remaining defenses. Sarah. I've wanted this for so long. That should have been the end. The final, absolute line. But hearing it, seeing the raw one in his eyes. I kissed him again, harder, pulling him closer, surrendering to the storm. And that was it. The world narrowed, blurred, reduced to touch, sensation, the catastrophic relief of finally letting go. Afterward, the silence pulsed. He lay beside me, breathing raggedly, his hand possessively on my skin, unwilling to break contact. I stared at the ceiling, numb, unable to process. My heart hammered, not just from the physical intensity, but from the terrifying absence of regret in that raw moment. Shame should have been my first emotion. Instead, twistedly, I felt alive. Seen. Wanted. What did this say about me? We barely spoke. What words could possibly contain the enormity of the betrayal? But his lingering touch, his reluctance to leave, spoke volumes. He didn't want this to be a mistake. And the part of me that had felt dead for so long? It didn't either. That moment after the line is crossed. Is it relief? Panic? Or something else entirely? Like this video, if you recognize that complicated post-transgression silence. When he finally left, there was just a long, searching look. An unspoken question hanging between us. I closed the door, leaning against it, the weight of my actions crushing me. I had crossed a line I swore I never would. And the coldest realization? I knew with chilling certainty, I'd do it again. The following days were surreal. I moved through my life like a ghost, work, chores, conversations with Mark, all shrouded in fog. Liam and I maintained a deliberate silence. No texts, no calls. The lack of contact was almost louder than words. What could we say? Yet, every phone notification sent my heart leaping. Was it him? Did he feel this suffocating mix of guilt and longing too? I waited, needing some sign, terrified of what it might mean. Mark noticed the shift. You okay, Sarah? He asked one evening, concern etching lines around his eyes. You seem miles away. I blamed work, lack of sleep. He accepted it, his unwavering trust a quiet torture. His familiar touch now felt alien, almost unbearable against the memory of Liam's intensity. My life with Mark felt like a photograph fading in the sun. I avoided Chloe, ignored her calls, made vague excuses. The thought of facing her, of seeing her trusting smile while harboring this poisonous secret, it was unthinkable. The betrayal felt multifaceted, cutting deeper because it involved the two people closest to me in different ways. Was this just a lapse, a desperate grasp for feeling? Or had it revealed a fundamental flaw, a hollowness inside me I could no longer ignore? Weeks later, I saw Liam across a crowded cafe. Our eyes locked. For a heartbeat, the world stopped. That dangerous current, that illicit connection, it hadn't faded. It was still there, humming beneath the surface. But now overlaid with guilt, fear, the chasm of what we'd done. We looked away simultaneously. No words exchanged, but the acknowledgement hung heavy in the air. We both knew. Sleep remains elusive. The nights are long, filled with replaying moments, dissecting choices. Why? Why him? Why now? The answer forming in the darkness is terrifyingly simple. I wasn't just tempted. I was starving. Starving for a look, a touch, a feeling that affirmed I was more than just a role I played. Liam, intentionally or not, offered that. He saw the woman I'd buried beneath years of quiet compromise. He made me feel alive. And the cost of that feeling? I'm only beginning to understand it. What comes next? The uncertainty is suffocating. Will the secret detonate? Will one of us break the silence? Will Mark ever look at me and truly see the change? Part of me craves oblivion, wishes it never happened. Another part shamefully replays the feeling, the aliveness. But the choice has been made. Its consequences aren't loud explosions, not yet. They are quiet echoes resonating in every interaction, every thought, every reflection in the mirror. It's changed me. Fundamentally. Can you ever truly go back after discovering a hidden part of yourself, even through a destructive act? What does being seen truly cost? Share your deepest reflections below. Give this video a final like if you felt Sarah's complex journey, and please subscribe because echoes have a way of growing louder. This echo is the new landscape of my life, and I have to navigate it alone.